Carmen Rodriguez took one last look at the crumpled €5 in her wallet before entering the most elegant restaurant in Madrid. At 23, this economics student had agreed to a date with Miguel, the son of her university's rector, hoping he would pay the bill. But when she realized that he expected her to pay to prove her independence, she panicked. €5 wasn't even enough for a starter in that place, where the dishes cost €50. While he was desperately looking for an excuse to leave without making a fool of himself, he didn't know that at the next table was Michael Vargas, the youngest CEO in Spain, who had heard every word of the conversation. What he did in the next few minutes not only saved Carmen from humiliation, but also set off a chain of events that would demonstrate how fate sometimes uses the most embarrassing situations to make you meet the person who will change your life forever. Carmen Rodriguez looked at herself in the bathroom mirror of her student apartment for the last time before leaving. She was wearing the only decent dress she owned, a beige sweater she had bought on sale 3 years earlier, and she did her best to hide the signs of fatigue. She worked as a waitress in a suburban pizzeria at night and studied economics at Complutense University during the day, sleeping an average of 4 hours a night. Meeting with Miguel Conti had not been his idea. He was the son of the university president, one of those rich kids who had never had to worry about anything in life. He had invited her after she had rejected his advances for months, until she realized that accepting could help her with her exams. Professor Conti was known for favoring those who frequented the family. The La Perla restaurant was in the center of Madrid, one of those places where a dinner cost more than Carmen earned in a week. When Miguel suggested the place, she thought he was joking, but he insisted, saying he wanted to impress her, and she hoped he also intended to pay. During the subway ride, Carmen checked her wallet for the umpteenth time. $5.20 was all he had left after paying rent, bills, and college books. His mother, who worked as a cleaning lady, sent him what she could, but it was never enough. Upon arriving at the restaurant, Carmen immediately felt out of place. The waiters wore tuxedos, the tables were set with silverware, and the customers wore clothes that cost more than their annual rent. Miguel was already sitting at a table by the window, dressed in a suit that probably cost €3,000. The encounter was immediately unpleasant. Miguel greeted her with a smirk, commenting that she was cute for a girl from the neighborhood. Carmen swallowed her pride and sat back, hoping the evening would end soon. When the waiter brought the menus, Carmen felt her stomach tighten. The cheapest starter was €35. First courses started at €45. Second courses at €60. Even mineral water cost €8. Miguel ordered without looking at the prices: a raw tuna starter, truffle risotto, salt-baked sea bass, dessert, and a bottle of wine that cost more than his monthly salary. When the waiter approached Carmen, she mumbled something about feeling slightly unwell, saying she'd settle for a salad. But the situation worsened when Miguel, with a smile that now seemed cruel, uttered the words that chilled her. "Oh, I forgot to tell you. I thought we'd split the cost." This is how you show that you are an independent and modern woman. Carmen felt like the world was collapsing. Half and half meant that everyone paid their own way, and she didn't even have enough for the water she had already drunk. Panic began to grow as he desperately searched for a way out of the situation, without making a terrible fool of himself. At the next table, Michael Vargas was dining alone while reading documents. At 30, he was the CEO of Vargas Tech, a technology company he had inherited from his father and transformed into one of the European giants in the sector. He had heard the entire conversation, and although he was used to the intrigues of the business world, what he had seen had disgusted him. He immediately recognized the dynamic. A rich guy who set up a girl who was clearly in financial difficulties, probably for sadistic fun. Michael had seen these power games too many times not to recognize them. Carmen was still looking for an excuse to leave when something incredible happened. The waiter approached their table with a professional smile and addressed Miguel with these words that changed everything. "Excuse me, sir, but the gentleman at the next table would like to invite you and the young lady to dinner. He has already paid the bill." Miguel turned in confusion to Michael, who raised his glass slightly in a polite greeting. Carmen looked at him in disbelief, seeing for the first time the face of the man who had saved her from the greatest humiliation of her life. Michael Vargas had just made the first move of a game that none of the three knew how it would end yet. Carmen looked at Michael Vargas as if he had appeared out of nowhere to save her. He was an elegant man in his 30s, with dark, carefully combed hair and dressed in a suit that exuded class without being ostentatious. But it was his eyes that impressed her most, kind yet determined, as if he was used to making important decisions without hesitation. Miguel, for his part, was visibly irritated. His plan to embarrass Carmen had failed, and now he found himself in the awkward position of having to accept the generosity of a stranger. He tried to reject the offer with false politeness, but Michael had already spoken with the restaurant manager, and the bill was paid. Carmen didn't know how to behave. On the one hand, I was immensely grateful. On the other hand, she felt humiliated for having needed help. When Michael got up to leave, she did something impulsive, apologized to Miguel, and ran after the man who had saved her. He caught up with him outside the restaurant where Michael was waiting for his car. Carmen approached with her heart beating fast, not knowing what to say. When he finally spoke, the words came out spontaneous and sincere. I'd felt the need to thank him in person, but more importantly, to let him know that I wasn't the type of person who normally had dinner paid for by strangers. Michael smiled for the first time that night, a warm smile that lit up his serious face. He told her he had done what anyone with a shred of decency would have done, seeing a girl in trouble and a boy who was having fun putting her in an embarrassing situation. The conversation that followed lasted only a few minutes, but it was intense. Carmen briefly told him about her situation. Hard-working student, family of humble origins, dream of graduating and finding a job that would allow her to help her mother. Michael listened to her without interrupting, impressed by her honesty and the determination that her words conveyed. When Michael's car, a black BMW with a chauffeur, arrived, Carmen understood that it had to do with someone very important, but Michael behaved with the same simplicity as before, saying goodbye with a wish of luck with your studies that seemed sincere. Carmen returned home that night with her head full of questions. Who was that man? Why had he helped her? And why, despite the embarrassment of the situation, it felt like she had met someone special. The following days were strange. Miguel didn't contact her again, probably offended by how the evening had ended. Carmen felt relieved, but she couldn't stop thinking about Michael. He had something that went beyond elegance and obvious wealth, a genuine gentleness that had nothing to do with money. A week later, while Carmen was working her night shift at the pizzeria, something unexpected happened. A man in a suit entered the store and asked for her. It was Marco, Michael's assistant, bringing him a message from his boss. Michael wanted to meet her again, but this time not by chance. Had a proposal to make him that could change his life. Carmen accepted the curious date, but also scared. What could such an important man want from her? The next day, they met at a quiet cafe near the university. Michael arrived first, and when he saw Carmen come in, he stood up to greet her with the same courtesy as the first time. But this time there was something different in his attitude. He seemed more relaxed, as if he was genuinely interested in getting to know her. The conversation began with light topics: Carmen's studies, her future plans, and the difficulties of balancing work and university. Michael listened attentively, asking intelligent questions that demonstrated his genuine interest. Then came the proposal that Carmen hadn't expected. Michael offered her a paid internship at his company with hours compatible with university. It wasn't charity, he quickly clarified. I had read his thesis on emerging markets and found it brilliant. He needed young, fresh minds in his company, and she had exactly the profile he was looking for. Carmen was speechless. It was too good to be true. An internship at Bargastec was a dream of any economics student, but there was a part of her that wondered if there was an ulterior motive. Michael seemed to read his thoughts. He told her that he understood her doubts, but that his offer was professional and nothing more. If he accepted, he would have to prove he deserved the position with hard work and results, just like any other employee. Carmen accepted, and that decision changed everything. She didn't yet know that Michael Vargas wasn't just a successful SEO, but a man who had recognized in her something beyond intelligence, a strength of spirit and a determination that he himself had had to develop to survive in the cutthroat world of business. They were about to embark on a path that would take them farther than either of them could have imagined. Carmen's first day at Vargastech was overwhelming. The company occupied 3 floors of a skyscraper in the center of Madrid with modern offices and views of the city. Carmen, wearing her market-bought suit, felt out of place among employees wearing designer clothes and talking about multi-million-dollar projects. Michael personally welcomed her, introducing her as the new intern for the International Market Development Department. Carmen noticed how everyone treated him with respect. He was a born leader, but with her he maintained the friendly attitude of their first meeting. The work was demanding, but stimulating. I had to analyze market data, prepare reports on emerging countries, and participate in international meetings. The first few days were difficult. I worked late, studied at night, and slept little. Are you enjoying the story? Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Now we continue with the video. Michael watched her from afar, noticing her dedication and intelligence. I saw how her colleagues gradually accepted her, impressed by her work, but I also noticed signs of fatigue, dark circles, constant tension. One night, while Carmen was still in the office at 9, Michael intervened. He found her surrounded by papers and charts with a cup of cold coffee. He sat down in front of her not as a yes, but as someone concerned for her well-being. Carmen confessed her fears to him. I was afraid of not being up to the task, of missing out on that incredible opportunity. Michael listened to her, then shared something personal. He told her about his difficult early years at the helm of the company when he felt inadequate and under pressure. That night, he invited her to dinner at a quiet restaurant. During dinner, Carmen discovered Michael's human side, less formal, more spontaneous. He told her about his hobbies, asked her about his family and dreams. He was intelligent and ambitious, but also lonely. The evening ended with Michael escorting her home. Carmen understood that something was changing between them. It was no longer just a professional relationship. In the following days, Michael began to involve her in more important projects, treating her as a trusted collaborator. Carmen felt more confident and contributed innovative ideas, but above all, they began to get to know each other as people through conversations, glances, and moments of connection. Carmen realized that she had fallen in love with her boss. Michael was struggling with feelings he hadn't experienced in years. The desire to share life with someone who would love him for who he was. Something was about to happen that would test both of them. 3 months after the start of the internship, Carmen had become a fundamental member of the team. Her work on emerging markets had helped secure 2 major contracts, and Michael had begun involving her in strategic decisions. But their relationship was becoming complicated. His classmates had begun to notice the special attention Michael paid to Carmen. Some murmured that his rapid rise did not depend solely on his professional abilities. Carmen heard these rumors and suffered, fearing that her work would be undervalued. The situation came to a head during a meeting with international investors. Carmen had prepared a presentation on Asian markets, but Marco Faraday, the vice president who had never digested her arrival, deliberately put her in a difficult position with technical questions in front of the clients. Michael intervened, supporting Carmen's arguments. The presentation was a success, and the contracts were signed. But after the meeting, Faraday approached Alexander with poisonous insinuations. I was losing objectivity. The company was seen as a place where personal recommendations counted more than merit. Michael reacted coldly, but the words had hit the mark. His feelings for Carmen were influencing his professional decisions. That night, he made a painful decision. He called Carmen into his office and told her the internship would end earlier than expected. He had received a job offer for her from another major company. Carmen understood that it wasn't the whole truth. When asked directly if there was anything more going on, Michael confessed that their relationship was becoming too personal, influencing the work environment. Carmen confessed that she had fallen in love with him, but that she had always separated feelings and work. Michael remained silent. He later admitted to having the same feelings, but that was precisely why he had to let her go. The next day, Carmen discovered that the offer was real. It came from the telephone company. Michael had personally recommended Carmen based solely on her merits, choosing her good over his own interests. It was the last act of love from a man who had sacrificed his own happiness to ensure the independent future of the woman he loved. Carmen's first months at Telefonica were intense and rewarding. I worked in international marketing, developing strategies for emerging markets. His boss had been impressed by Michael Vargas's skills and recommendation. Carmen threw herself into her work without emotional tension, knowing that she was there because of her merits. But she missed Michael so much, not only as a man she had fallen in love with, but also as a mentor and friend. Michael experienced the separation even more painfully. Carmen's office had been empty for weeks, and every time she walked past it, she was reminded of the moments they had shared. 6 months after their separation, fate brought them together again at a conference on globalization. Carmen represented Telefonica. Michael was a keynote speaker. When they met in the hotel lobby, they both felt the same emotional surge as they had for the first time. That night, Michael invited Carmen to dinner. This time, there were no labor relations to complicate the situation. They were a man and a woman who had fallen in love under the wrong circumstances and now had the opportunity to freely explore their feelings. The dinner was magical. Michael confessed that he had thought about Carmen every day, that he had followed her career from afar. Carmen told him that the decision to let her go had been painful, but fair, and that the gesture had made her fall in love with him even more. When Michael asked her for a second chance, Carmen accepted on one condition. Their relationship had to be kept separate from work. Michael proposed something even more ambitious. I wanted Carmen to continue growing at Telefonica, while building something personal and lasting together. A year after their first official date, Michael proposed to her at the pizzeria on the outskirts of town where Carmen had worked during college, the place where it all began, when a girl with €5 had met the man who would change her life. 2 years after their wedding, Carmen and Michael had proven that true love can coexist with professional success. Without compromising either of them, Carmen had become Telefonica's international marketing director, the youngest woman to hold that position in the company's history. Michael had expanded Vargas Tech to 3 new continents, confirming himself as one of the brightest entrepreneurs of his generation. But his greatest success was the family they had built together. They lived in an elegant but cozy villa on the outskirts of Madrid, where Carmen had set up an office so she could work from home when necessary. And Michael had his private office for the nights dedicated to the most important projects. His daily routine was a perfect balance between professional ambition and family intimacy. Every morning they had breakfast together, talking about their respective commitments, but also about personal projects. Carmen had started writing a book on marketing strategies in emerging markets, while Michael was dedicated to charitable initiatives for young entrepreneurs without resources. Their love had grown and matured through professional and personal challenges. They supported each other through difficult times, celebrated successes together, and above all, learned that mutual respect is the foundation of any lasting relationship. One spring evening, as they sat in their garden watching the sunset over Madrid, Carmen made an announcement that made Michael the happiest man in the world. They were expecting their first child. The news came at a perfect time in their lives. Both had achieved professional stability, had a solid and happy marriage, and felt ready for the next step. Michael hugged Carmen with a tenderness she had never seen before, whispering in her ear that he wanted to raise a child with her. In the following months, Carmen's pregnancy was followed with maniacal care by Michael, who revealed himself to be the most apprehensive and attentive father-to-be in the world. She rescheduled her commitments to always be present at doctor's appointments, transformed one of the chalet's rooms into the perfect nursery, and began reading every parenting book she could find. Carmen continued working until her 8th month, proving that a woman can be both a successful professional and a happy mother-to-be. Her colleagues at Telefonica fully supported her, and she became a role model for young women trying to balance their careers and motherhood. When little Diego was born, Michael cried with joy holding him in his arms for the first time, looking at his wife, who smiled tiredly, but radiantly with happiness, and his son, who was sleeping peacefully, realized that he had reached a fulfillment that went far beyond any professional success. Carmen, for her part, discovered that motherhood had not diminished her ambition, but had enriched it with a new dimension. I wanted to be an example for Diego, to show him that any dream can be achieved with effort and determination, but also that family is the most important value in life. 6 months after Diego's birth, Carmen and Michael made a decision that surprised all their colleagues. They decided to launch a foundation together to support young women from disadvantaged families who wanted to study economics and business. The foundation would offer scholarships, mentoring programs, and internship opportunities at top Spanish companies. The idea was born from the memory of that night at the restaurant when Carmen almost had to give up dinner due to lack of money. They wanted to ensure that no talented, ambitious girl would ever have to find herself in a similar situation, and that everyone would have the opportunity to realize their dreams, regardless of the initial economic conditions. The Nuevas Oportunidades Foundation quickly became one of the most respected philanthropic projects in Spain. Carmen was in charge of selecting candidates and organizing training programs, while Michael used his network of contacts to create specific job opportunities. In a moving ceremony, the first scholarship was awarded to an 18-year-old girl who closely resembled Carmen at her age. Intelligent, determined, but lacking the financial resources to afford the university of her dreams. When the girl thanked Carmen with tears in her eyes, they both realized they were creating a virtuous cycle that would change many lives. That night, returning home after the ceremony, Michael told Carmen something that perfectly summed up his path. He reminded her that it all started with a kind gesture in a restaurant when a man decided to help a girl in need without expecting anything in return. Now they were doing the same thing on a larger scale, helping other girls realize their dreams. But above all, they had shown that true love is born when two people recognize and respect each other for who they truly are, beyond appearances and social differences. Carmen looked at Michael, who was gently rocking Diego, and then looked out the window at the city of Madrid shining in the night. I thought about the girl I had been with €5 in my pocket and so afraid of making a fool of myself. And I thought about the woman I had become. A happy wife, proud mother, successful professional, and above all, a person who had found a way to give back to the world some of the good fortune she had received. Sometimes all it takes is €5 and a chance encounter to change the course of a life. And sometimes the most beautiful love is born just when you least expect it, at the moment when you most need someone to believe in you. Your connection. Come on. I like it if you believe that kindness can change a life. Comment on which moment in history had the greatest impact on you. Share to inspire those who still believe in true love. Subscribe for more success stories and second chances. Sometimes a gesture of generosity opens the door to destiny. Sometimes the person who saves you from shame becomes the love of your life. And sometimes the most beautiful stories begin when you only have €5 in your pocket, but a heart full of dreams. Because true success isn't measured solely in money, but in the love, respect, and opportunities we create for others.